Welcome to What's Cooking New Ulm. I'm Rebecca Fliszar, the dietitian with the Hearts Beat Back Heart of New Ulm project, working to reduce and eventually eliminate heart attacks in the 56073 zip code. Well, today we're going to take a look at some fun snacks for your entire family, and here to make those is Angie Pidde, right?
Yes.
All right, tell us a little bit about these recipes, where they came from, and why you like them.
Okay. Well, it started off, I think over the years I've just done a lot with substitution.
Okay.
So I like to add things to recipes, or if I'm missing something, I'll put something in there. And I actually came upon a cookbook that substituted things in recipes that incorporated more fruits and veggies and even things like navy beans and kidney beans for more protein.
Okay.
So it helps me get that in my diet, but then also for my kids.
That's great.
So
That's
yeah,
great.
It's exciting.
Remember, with the Mediterranean diet promoted through the Heart of New Ulm, we're looking for 7 to 9 fruits and vegetable servings. So this is a great way to get them hidden in there and have your kids still enjoy the meal, right?
Yep.
All right, well, why don't you walk us through your first recipe. Tell us what is included and how long this is going to take.
Okay. Our family loves pizza, so I found this recipe for pita pizzas, where it actually incorporates some spinach puree in there, and you can't really taste it. It just has more of a vegetable taste to it.
Okay.
Instead of the fattening and the salty things that come upon the different pizzas that are out there right now. So what you need is, the recipe itself calls for 8 pita pockets, or even these sliced sandwich bread tops work real well.
Yeah, those will look great. They're like mini pizzas.
Right, yep. So we just take those and have those apart. And what you need to do is make sure that you have spinach puree.
Okay.
Now there's a couple different ways that I would have used it. You can use canned spinach and then cut that up because that's already soft.
Sure.
Or you can take and puree it yourself by using like the baked baby spinach. And then what you do from there is boil it in some water, just a little bit, and it gets soft, and then you start to puree it with either like a hand chopper or something.
Okay.
So we'll start with that.
Yeah, so this is a good way to, using the cut leaf spinach out of the can, is a good way to shorten your preparation time and keep it moving, huh?
Right, yeah, because otherwise you have to add that extra time, you know, sauteing it in the oven, and that's just not fun.
Great.
And this adds, with the cut spinach leaf that's already in the can, adds a little bit more texture.
Okay.
Where like if you were to have, you know, chopped tomatoes and there are other veggies, you can't really tell. Just make sure that you drain all the water so that it doesn't get all over the pita bread.
Sure.
So we're going to move these a little bit out of the way then. And so I'll just chop it up just a little bit so it's, you know, smaller chunks than what it was before, kind of mashed apart.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of, is this acting like our marinara, or we're just hiding it underneath?
We're hiding it underneath, actually.
All right.
So we'll still use some marinara sauce, and we'll still add some other vegetables, but this is just hidden underneath.
Okay, great. Now, Angie, the other reason that we asked you to come on today is that you're quite a champion for the Heart of New Ulm as well. So tell us a little bit about where you work, what you're doing, and how you're supporting the Heart of New Ulm.
Okay. I work at South Point Federal Credit Union, and we have been incorporated and working with the Heart of New Ulm Heart Beats Back since probably about 2009, when we first did the initial screenings. We got the staff involved. Fabulous, because it gave us some results that were a little bit scary. Mm-hmm. We wanted to figure out a way, after seeing the screenings, how can we get the staff involved to become more healthier with activity, and even things like eating more fruits and vegetables.
Right.
So it's been exciting. We've actually been involved with MVTL and Windings and doing some competitions the last 2 years.
Great.
So that's great.
Yeah. Now, while she's making this recipe, Angie, we've already started your noodles for a second recipe. Is that right?
Yes, we're going to be doing a recipe called macaroni and cheese with a little bit more protein in it than just from the cheese.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and we're just going to put a little bit of olive oil on our pan just so it doesn't stick.
Right.
And we'll set that right on top. We'll set the pitas right on top of there.
Okay. Yes, and cooking spray would work well for this as well. Remember, our olive oil is the basic principle of the Mediterranean diet, so it's something that we do want to incorporate into our daily intake. It does have a high level of monounsaturated fats, and it's going to help bring up your HDL, or that good cholesterol. As we go through screenings at this time of the year, be sure to come in and find out what your numbers are. See if you've improved since 2009 screenings. If you weren't screened in 2009, we'd still love to have you come in, support the Heart of New Ulm, and make sure that you are in good heart health.
Okay, so I'm going to move this over here so we can just show how we put the ingredients on. So what we're going to do is, what you want to do is take the spinach that you've either chopped up or pureed, depending on what you have, and you just put a little bit on each of the pita or the bread, whatever you have, and put it within about, I would say, 1/2 inch or 1/4 of an inch from the outside.
Okay.
You don't want it going over the edge, especially if you have kids, because they're going to wonder what all that green stuff is in there.
So that's
you
our
want
hiding
to hide
technique
it a
here.
little
All
bit.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this works for husbands too.
Yeah, because they don't like anything green. So it's best if they just can't see it. That's a specialty with these recipes, is you don't even know it's in there until someone tells you.
Great. So what are some examples of other recipes you found in there? How else are you hiding some of your vegetables?
There's a chocolate peanut butter dip that I have that uses carrot puree. We've done burgers with sweet potato puree in it.
Great.
We've done a couple different things with even pancakes, adding more flavor from sweet potatoes and bananas, just to give the pancakes even a better flavor.
Sure.
Yeah.
Those sound like great tips.
It's a lot of fun. Just experimenting is the biggest thing.
Yeah, we always want to incorporate these green leafies. Even when they're canned, something like spinach is going to be high in vitamin K and a lot of antioxidants. So anytime that you can get those into your diet is going to be a benefit. Remember, you can use different things to add different flavor to these as well. If you wanted to try something like collard greens or Swiss chards, all of those will work in the same way. All right.
Okay, so what we would do then is we take the sauce that we have, and you can use either a tomato sauce that you have that's already canned, or if you have a homemade spaghetti sauce that maybe has more of the chopped up tomatoes and the fresh vegetables and the spices in it, you can use that too. So it's up to you, whatever you have on hand.
I'd like to point out too that in this tomato sauce that we're using, we purchased the no sodium added, the no salt added variety, and actually it's very, very low in sodium. You know, it's less than 1% of our daily intake, so don't be afraid of all of our canned vegetables as well.
And you want to take with the sauce to make sure that it overlaps the spinach, so that comes closer to the edge of the pita bread or the top of the buns that you would have.
Okay, all right. And if you wanted to add more carbohydrate or make it even more filling, you can actually probably add the top of the bun back on and make it a pizza sandwich if you chose. But these are going to come out looking just like mini pizzas, and it's going to be fun for your kids and family to try. Also with this, you could add other vegetables if you'd like. You could add onions into here. You could add pretty well anything you'd like, I would think, huh?
Yeah, I like to have the kids take and make their own, so they pick out the fruits and veggies. At the point of picking out maybe the fruits or the vegetables. When I say fruits, I say things like pineapple. We like to add pineapple to our pizzas.
Pizza.
Right, it's just without the Canadian bacon or the pepperoni.
Okay.
So when we add the fruits and veggies, all at this point, when I have the kids add it, we'll already have the spinach and the sauce and the cheese on top. So they can't see the spinach that's already in there.
That's great.
So we'll make a couple plain, and then we'll put some other vegetables on top so that way you can see what it looks like as it comes out of the oven with the different ingredients on it. So then we would take mozzarella cheese and use a reduced fat. You can either use a shredded or you can use a sliced cheese.
Okay.
Either one would work, but put it right on top.
All right.
So if you want to do that, then what I'm going to do is start on the other vegetables and chopping them up. So the nice part about this is because it's so vegetable rich, you can use the same cutting board.
Right.
So for, chopping up, we have red peppers. We'll put a couple slices on some of the pizza, and then we'll also put some mushrooms on. The flavor's just all entwined.
Great. So, and we've already pre-washed our vegetables. Angie did that before we got started. So make sure you're always cautious and keep your vegetables clean, right?
Yes, important.
Give your noodles a stir over there for our next recipe.
Okay, so I'm just going to take a whisk and we'll just get those moving. You want to make sure your noodles for that next recipe are al dente, not smushed, because it cooks a little bit longer, so you don't want them mushy. Kids and nobody else really cares to eat mushed up noodles, especially mac and cheese.
You know, the funny thing is these are turning out, they look just like little pizzas. So
they do.
I can definitely see where my kids are going to be completely fooled by this. So this is a good recipe. I'm sure I will put to work many times.
And if they can't taste the flavor in these, there's another recipe that calls for spinach and brownies. And that's pretty interesting because they taste real flavorful, nice, full of chocolate, and they're rich. Just there's spinach in them.
Great.
So we'll put some with the red peppers on it.
All right. We'll work hard with Angie to get some of these recipes available online for you to take a look at as well. You can make sure this one will be up there soon. And those other ones that we're mentioning, Angie will work to get those put out there too.
Okay, and then we'll take a mushroom, and then we'll just put mushroom on top of two of them, and we'll be able to put those in the oven. For these, you put them in for about 8 to 10 minutes, like a regular pizza, just to make sure that it gets brown on top, and then let it sit for a few minutes before you take it out of the oven.
Okay. So we want to turn the oven off and leave them in there, or you want to, before you take them off the pan?
Before you take them off the pan.
Okay.
And it's about 400 degrees.
Okay.
So no different than a regular pizza, just a different format.
All right.
So I have some sliced mushrooms on a couple of these and some red pepper, and then we'll have a couple plain. And like I said, you can mix and match your vegetables depending on what you like.
This looks great.
So we'll take and we'll put these in, again, 400 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. And then they should come out looking just like our own personal pizzas.
All right, that sounds great. While we wait for these pizzas to bake off, we're going to go ahead and check in and see what's new with Holly in Fit in 5.
Welcome to Fit in 5. Today we have Amanda Forstrom with us. Amanda is a physical therapist at the Sister Kenny Rehab Institute at the New Ulm Medical Center. Amanda, thanks for joining us today. It's nice to have you. You know, when I was a kid and all through my adolescence, my mom kept saying, stand up straight, sit up straight, stand up straight. It was really annoying, but she was really kind of onto something, wasn't she? Now, what is the importance of good posture?
Well, good posture helps us balance against the forces of gravity, which are trying to pull us down. And if we can do that, it more evenly distributes forces through our body so that no one structure is overly stressed. It can really help us to avoid overstress, overstrain injuries. It also can help us with facilitating breathing, so we can get a good deep breath in. And also by using energy better, we feel less fatigue through the day.
I would imagine, especially as we age, that it's really important to have good posture. Most of us, I would say, about 90% of us have absolutely terrible posture.
Well, I don't know if I'd say absolutely terrible posture all the time, but at times we definitely do. And that it's important as we age, because sometimes with aging, if we don't fight this, our muscles get weaker, and then it's harder to maintain that posture. And if we use bad posture over a long period of time, those changes can become permanent. We can have structural changes to our muscles and joints and ligaments that make it hard to correct that.
And it's not just standing, it's also sitting. So what are some of the muscles that are really involved with good posture and helping hold us upright?
It really starts with a base around our pelvis. We want our leg and hip muscles to be strong, and also our abdominals. And then working up our body, really the muscles up the backside of our body are important. They're the ones that are going to be fighting gravity.
Because I don't know if we think a lot of, your core has quite a bit to do with it. So if I'm at home, what can I do to help improve my posture?
If you're standing, a good thing to think about is pretend there's a string that's coming up out of the top of your head towards the ceiling, and that it's pulling you up, kind of like a marionette puppet. And just feel kind of light on your feet. Have your weight evenly distributed between both feet, but then also from the front to the back of our feet. That nice light on your feet feeling. And everything just kind of falls into place from there. Or you could also just roll your shoulders back a little bit. And it's not necessarily about keeping your body completely straight, rather just maintaining those natural curves in our back so that the muscles aren't overworking to keep us up straight.
Because I don't think a natural curve, that's not a natural curve at all. So we can actually do this fixing meals, watching TV. It's not necessarily anything that we have to hit the floor and do 100 crunches for, but just as we move through space, correct?
Yeah. And for sitting, we talked about standing, but for sitting, get yourself sitting down into the back of the seat that you're on, whether it's a couch or a chair. That way it's a lot harder to slouch, for one thing. You can use that surface to help hold you up. But then also not letting yourself slide out of there, and just keeping your shoulders back a little bit seems to do a lot.
Yeah, so if we look a little ergonomically, if you're at work, your desk height is also very important to help prevent slouching. Is it ever too late to help improve your posture?
No, definitely not. There's always things you can do. And actually a few exercises to work those trunk muscles that we mentioned really help, whether it's something like yoga or Pilates, or just some general strengthening exercises with our body weight to use the muscles on the back of our body.
Great. Well, Amanda, thanks for joining us today. Very helpful information as always. And, well, hopefully with Amanda's tips, you can help maintain or build good posture. For today's Fit in 5, I'm Holly. Have a heart-healthy day.
Great, Holly. Those are some wonderful tips. Make sure you're following along with Holly and staying active. All right, Angie, where are we at?
Well, I think our pita pizzas are done, so we'll take them out of the oven.
Oh, yeah, these look great.
Okay, so we'll just set these down on yourself. All right, so as you can see that they just look like individual pizzas, and you can't see the spinach, and you can put more or less on depending on your preference. You know, again, be very cautious of the cheese. You don't want to overload them on cheese, more of the vegetables and that type of flavor for those pockets.
You can really see how that red in the marinara has come out, and yet we don't really see any of that green at all. This looks great.
Yeah.
Definitely can get my kids to eat these.
Yeah, they're really good. And what you want to make sure is after you take them out of the oven, wait about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Otherwise, when you start cutting into them, the cheese comes off, and then you see the spinach underneath. So you just want to let them cool for a little bit. Otherwise, that's where we see the cheese come off the pizzas right away.
Great.
Okay. So we'll get started on the macaroni and cheese. Our noodles have boiled, they're done, so now what we're going to start on is the sauce.
Okay.
Okay, so this was a unique recipe that I found, and what you need to do is actually use pureed navy beans or any type of white bean that you have in your cupboard. And so I chose navy beans for this recipe. You can either utilize, again, a food chopper, just like the spinach, to take and chop up the navy beans, or a blender. Here what we're going to do today is we're just going to use a knife and smush them up as much as we can, but they won't be that consistency of like pureed baby food. Okay?
You know, we always like to incorporate the beans and legumes into our diet. These are going to be very high in fiber. They're great sources of protein, and they're very low in sodium, saturated fat, and cholesterol. So anytime that you can substitute beans for your meat, it's a great idea, especially if you have any current cardiac conditions, a family history of any heart disease, or just want to watch your overall intake and health. This is a great way to do that. As Angie mentioned, you can try many different kinds of beans. We have cannellinis, we have black beans, kidney beans. Any of those are going to be really high in our fiber, which we're looking for 25 to 35 grams of per day. And they're also very high in our protein, which we're looking for between 50 and 70 grams per day. So definitely incorporate those into your diet and find out how healthy they can really be.
The navy beans, when we were using them, take on the color of the macaroni and cheese. Okay. My concern with using the kidney beans when I first did that was, you know, when you are making it for kids, there's little pieces of red in there, and they're not, you know, kind of worried about what they are. Right. Sure. And the navy beans, and any bean, I think, when you start adding it to some of these recipes, give it such a rich texture and flavor, and it's really hard for people to figure out what it is until you tell them, and then they recognize, oh, that's why it tastes like Grandma's bean soup. Right, exactly.
You know, even if you're not quite ready to go completely to the beans, you can always half your meat portion. If you're using ground beef or ground turkey and substitute it with beans, keep some of your meat, but go half with beans. You're going to still take a great deal of benefit from that as well.
So we've got these mashed up, and you need half a cup for the recipe, give or take, whatever you can get in there.
All right. You may notice, too, that this is starting to look like something you've seen before. So navy beans or chickpeas can also, or garbanzo beans, are going to make something called hummus, which is a nice dip that you use with crackers, and these can work just as well in that as well. So it's starting to look like that. You can add just a little seasoning, herbs, and spices to this, and you're going to have a really nice dip for your crackers instead of a high-fat sour cream-based dip as well. So an easy substitution to make, something that will take some getting used to, but something that you might end up enjoying tremendously, actually. So what else goes into this, Angie? How are we going to make this heart healthy and yet still taste good?
Well, the number one thing is utilizing a whole wheat pasta.
Okay.
You can use any type. You can use elbow macaroni. You can use egg noodles. Just make sure that it's whole wheat.
Right.
The other thing that we put in here is the mozzarella cheese and cheddar cheese, but it's reduced fat. I like to add the mozzarella cheese. To me, that just has so much more of a softer flavor than what the cheddar cheese does. Sure. And I'm just a fan of mozzarella cheese. And then when you add it with the beans, it has just such a distinct flavor to it.
We do find with our whole wheat pasta as well, it's going to be, again, a good source of fiber if you're choosing your right brand. This is going to be a high fiber meal if you work it that way with your beans and that whole wheat pasta. So something that you can incorporate into your meals quite often. Remember, as a diabetic, you're going to watch the total carbohydrate intake. Beans do count as one of our carbohydrate servings, so be aware of that as you're counting your meal plans.
Okay, so once you have the beans ready to go, all mashed up and pureed, so you're going to add that to a pot. And I like to coat the pot beforehand because this is where my cheese mixture is going to go, with some cooking spray.
Okay.
So we've done that already, and then what you need to do is add 1 cup of skim milk.
All right. And now this was an empty pot to start with. You can see that there's 2 pots on the stove. The noodles are in the other pot.
So then what I'm going to do with the beans and the milk mixture is I'm going to take and just turn up the heat on this, and I'm going to whisk this together for probably about 2 to 4 minutes.
All right.
And just get it so it's all mixed together and at a warm base. And this will be then the base for our macaroni and cheese before we add the cheeses to it.
Okay. Now, Angie, South Point was also involved in our culinary cooking competition last summer, isn't that right?
We were, yep. We had a couple recipes in there, even got our CEO out and had his fun apron on and got everybody involved in it, and had a couple potlucks actually prior to that for the staff to vote on what recipes they thought should go through that were heart healthy. So that was, you know, incorporating food and fun at work, but in a healthy manner.
Sure. We do find, too, that by incorporating some of these Heart of New Ulm events that we build teamwork and, you know, camaraderie in the work site as well. So Heart of New Ulm is affecting us in our work site, in our community, and in healthcare. Everywhere you look, hopefully you're becoming more heart healthy as well.
The nice part with the combination with working with the Heart of New Ulm is our membership base covers the 3-county area, but it covers all of Brown County. So we're not just hitting people in New Ulm, at least from our office, we're hitting Sleepy Eye and Springfield, and knowing that we're just maybe making a difference throughout the county is just, it makes you feel good about what you do.
That's great. That's great. You know, as the Heart of New Ulm continues, too, we've seen great results. In the past 15 months, we've been able to reduce the incidence of heart disease and heart attacks in New Ulm by 24%. That's pretty substantial, and maybe that was your neighbor that's been helped. So get on board, help out with the Heart of New Ulm, and support your entire community.
Okay.
So what kind of texture are you looking for there, Angie?
We're just heating it up is what we're trying to do. Make sure that the milk and the pureed or the mashed up navy beans are all working together at the same temperature. It just helps then the cheeses melt together too, and keeps that creamy, smooth texture to the macaroni that we're going to add.
So if we were to break this down then, those beans are actually taking over the texture of what fat would have been in, you know, some of our higher fat
more of our
cheeses
butters
and things, our butters, and great, that's wonderful.
Okay, so then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the shredded cheeses, and you can do, based on your flavor, what you want. I'm going to do half a cup of mozzarella, and then I'm going to do 1 cup of the cheddar cheese. And you can change that up. If you don't want such a sharp flavor to it, then you can take and put less cheddar and more mozzarella in, or maybe there's some other reduced fat cheeses that you like to add.
Now, how many portions is this going to serve, Angie?
Well, I made this for my family, and it served 4 people, but I was very sparingly on their plates. I don't think one person should sit down and eat a whole pot full of it.
Can't do that.
And I'm going to do 1 cup here. So I would say a 4 would be the decent portion size here. Yep. So if you have a larger family, just double the recipe. Just make sure that your portion sizes are small enough and not, you know, sitting down with a bowl full of macaroni in front of the TV.
And that's something that we've discussed before, and we've revisited many times, is portion size is probably our greatest difficult hurdle to overcome. And so, although this is a much healthier option than regular mac and cheese, we do have to adhere to our portion sizes, make sure that we're aware of how much our serving size is, and stick to it. Otherwise, we are not going to see the great benefits for our heart that we're hoping to with these recipes.
So now, because the milk and the beans was already heated up, once I added the cheeses, it started to melt right away. But you want to just make sure that you get the cheese melted all the way in there and not that it's still stringy and shredded. So I'll keep whisking this then.
And so that should take about how long?
Just about another 1 to 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, so it's a pretty quick recipe.
And you don't want to turn it on too high because you don't want to scorch that milk that's in there. So you just got to be very careful with it.
Be a little patient, huh?
Yeah. And you know, regular mac and cheese, when you buy it from a box, takes 20 to 25 minutes. So this recipe isn't any more timely except for the beans. And you could do that ahead of time and freeze that. I've done that with pureed cauliflower, spinach, and beans. Is whatever I'm trying to use, I'll puree more, and then I just freeze it in baggies. For, you know, a cup or half a cup just to use it for future reference.
That's a good job for the kids to do, to have them mash your beans.
Okay. So our consistency then is, as you can see, it's pretty stringy once I pick it up, but it's still that smooth texture there, like cheese should be. Real cheese, not the box powdered cheese here.
Right,
We're using
right.
real cheese for our macaroni. So I'm going to turn that down to low because now what I want to do is add the macaroni that we had from before.
Okay.
I'm actually going to grab a bigger spoon here. So I'll just dump this right in there. So the macaroni was al dente, not too soft.
And we used about how much, what was your measurement there for
I
your noodles?
used a cup and a half. So this is going to be very creamy. Once I take this out, you'll see it's extremely creamy. If you don't like it like that, add a few more
pasta.
noodles. Yeah.
And it's a good way to expand this recipe and to make it for greater portions. Instead of adding more calories through the cheese, you can go ahead and just add more noodles, thin out your sauce, and it's going to serve more with a less calorie intake on that one. So that's great.
So now I've stirred it all together. What I want to do is I want to add some spices just to bring out more flavor.
Okay.
So what we're going to add is some garlic powder, not garlic salt, paprika, and pepper.
Okay.
So we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of each one.
And again, all of these are going to be to taste. So if you have a family that is a fan of garlic, go ahead and add a little bit more. It is one of our better spices for our heart health. Not that any are not good, but we always look to add garlic into our diet. Paprika is going to have a little bit more zing to it. And pepper, of course, you can add to taste. What we have eliminated from this recipe is salt. We don't add any additional salt. We're going to get plenty of that from our cheese, so we don't need to add any more into our recipe.
Okay, so I'll add those in, and then I can just give this another quick stir. Make sure all that those spices that are in there, especially the garlic and the pepper, get shifted around a lot in our pasta and within the cheeses there. You don't want a clump of red or, one big chunk of garlic or the pepper. So just make sure that you stir it.
Okay.
Make sure that it's mixed real well. And then your macaroni and cheese is ready to go.
Well, let's plate that out, Angie, and let's see how that looks.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that looks good. That nice real cheese is much more appealing than the powder.
And as you can see, I still have quite a bit in there, so the portion sizes can still remain at the right amount for one serving instead of piling the whole plate full of macaroni and cheese.
Exactly. Angie, these were some great recipes. We sure appreciate everything you're doing down at South Point. You have a great team down there, and you're on your way to great heart health. So thanks for being here today.
All right, thank you for having me.
And bringing in your recipes. Well, that's it for this week's episode of What's Cooking, New Ulm. I'm Rebecca Fliszar, and I'll see you next week.